Ethan never liked alien stations. The walls always seemed to breathe. The lights flickered like strange stars, and the air carried a taste of metal and spice. He had been sent there as part of a trade mission, one human among dozens of different alien species. Everywhere he turned, eyes followed him, some curious, some cold, and some filled with hidden laughter. Humans were still new in this part of the galaxy, and many aliens treated them like children who had wandered too far from home. Ethan kept his head down, walking through the grand hall of the station. It was full of movement aliens with 4 arms bargaining loudly, tall creatures with glowing eyes exchanging data crystals, and strange beings floating above the ground like shadows. The hall felt alive, buzzing with voices he could not understand. And then, among the noise and strangeness, he noticed her. She was standing near a column carved with silver patterns. Her skin was pale with a shimmer of violet, and her long hair floated as if touched by invisible wind. Her eyes were golden, sharp, and full of something Ethan could not name. She was not just another alien. She looked young, elegant, and oddly human-like, but with a beauty that seemed unreal. When her gaze met his, Ethan felt a small jolt in his chest. The alien girl smiled, a soft, playful smile, and began walking toward him. Ethan froze, unsure of what to do. No alien had ever walked up to him like that, not with such confidence, not with such focus. When she stopped in front of him, she tilted her head and spoke in clear English, her voice calm but teasing. "You are the human," she said, as if she had been waiting for him. "Yes," Ethan replied, his throat dry. "I'm Ethan." Her smile grew wider, and without asking, she reached out and touched his arm. Her fingers were warm, soft, and yet they carried a strange energy that made his skin tingle. The other aliens nearby turned their heads, whispering in their strange languages. Ethan felt heat on his neck. Everyone seemed to be watching them. Then it happened. The girl leaned forward, so close that Ethan could see the shimmer of light in her golden eyes. Before he could say anything, she opened her mouth and gently bit his shoulder. It was not painful, just a playful, almost affectionate nibble, like a game. Ethan's eyes widened, his mind froze, and he laughed nervously. What was that?" he asked, confused and embarrassed. The aliens around them gasped, some even backed away. The whispers grew louder, echoing across the hall. But the girl only smiled, her expression calm and mischievous. "To bite is to choose," she whispered, softly so only Ethan could hear. Ethan blinked, unable to understand her meaning. He thought it was a strange alien joke, but something about the seriousness in her tone made him uneasy. Trying to shake off the tension, he forced a laugh. "Well, I guess that means hello," he said awkwardly. The girl tilted her head again, studying him as if he had said something both silly and interesting. Then she turned and walked away slowly, leaving Ethan standing in the middle of the hall with dozens of alien eyes on him. He rubbed the spot on his shoulder where she had bitten him, still feeling the warmth of her touch. Something about that moment stayed inside him. A question he could not answer. Later, when he returned to his human quarters, Ethan tried to explain what happened to his crewmates. "She bit you?" One of them laughed. "Maybe she likes you." But Ethan shook his head. "No, it wasn't like that. It felt serious, like it meant something." His words were met with shrugs, jokes, and laughter. But in the back of his mind, Ethan could not let it go. Why did the aliens react with shock? Why did she whisper those strange words? That night, Ethan lay awake in his bunk, staring at the ceiling. The station hummed with distant machinery, but all he could hear was her voice echoing in his mind. To bite is to choose. Chosen for what? For friendship? For danger? For something far beyond his understanding? His chest tightened with unease, and yet, strangely, he also felt a spark of excitement, as if in that single playful bite, his fate had shifted into a path he could not escape. The human had been marked, and the meaning of that mark was yet to come. Ethan woke up the next morning, feeling uneasy. The memory of the alien girl, her golden eyes, And that strange playful bite stayed in his mind like a heavy shadow. He touched his shoulder where her teeth had pressed into his skin, expecting maybe a mark, but there was nothing visible, only a faint warmth. Still, the moment felt too real to ignore. When he stepped into the busy hall again, the station felt different. The aliens were looking at him with sharper eyes now. Some whispered to each other and then quickly turned away. He felt as if he was carrying a secret that everyone else already knew, except him. The air seemed heavy with tension, and his footsteps echoed louder than usual. One of his crewmates, a tall engineer named Marcus, noticed the way aliens avoided. "Ethan, looks like you're famous," Marcus joked, slapping Ethan on the back. Ethan tried to smile, but his lips felt stiff. He leaned closer to Marcus, whispering, "Do you think they know about what happened yesterday?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "The girl? The bite?" Ethan nodded quickly. "Yes, that she said something strange, something about choosing." Marcus laughed, shaking his head. "Maybe you're reading too much into it. Humans get nervous and aliens love to tease." But Ethan wasn't convinced. The look in her eyes, the way the hall had gone silent, none of it felt like a joke. Later that day, Ethan caught sight of the girl again. She was across the hall, speaking with two older aliens dressed in ceremonial robes. When her golden eyes flicked toward him, Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine. Her lips curved into a small smile. And then she whispered something to the elders. They turned to look at Ethan with a strange intensity, almost as if they were measuring his worth. He stepped back nervously, bumping into a tall alien guard with scales across his shoulders. The guard hissed under his breath, muttering words in his language. But Ethan caught one word repeated twice. It sounded like "claimed." Ethan froze, his heart racing. What did that mean? That evening, he went to the observation deck, hoping to find some peace. The view outside was breathtaking. The endless stars, the silent blackness of space, and the glow of distant nebulae. But instead of peace, Ethan felt more questions circling in his head. Why were they whispering about him? Why did the girl's words feel like a warning wrapped in sweetness? His thoughts were broken when the girl appeared behind him, silent like a shadow. "You look troubled," she said, her voice soft, carrying that same playful yet serious tone. Ethan turned quickly, almost stumbling. You bit me yesterday, and everyone is acting strange. Why?" The girl tilted her head, her golden eyes glowing faintly under the station lights. "Because they see what you don't yet see," she answered calmly. "And what's that supposed to mean?" Ethan pressed, frustration leaking into his voice. The girl leaned closer, her lips curling into that same mischievous smile. "You belong to me now," she whispered. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He stepped back, shaking his head. "What? No, that's insane. I don't belong to anyone." Her smile only grew wider, but her eyes were serious, almost burning. "Not insane," she said softly. "Inevitable." Before Ethan could say another word, a group of aliens entered the deck, their eyes falling on him with open curiosity. They muttered to one another, their voices low but filled with recognition. Ethan felt as though he were on display, like some rare animal trapped in a cage. He turned to ask the girl for an explanation, but she was already walking away, leaving him with nothing but her cryptic words. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. His mind raced with possibilities. What did she mean by belonging to her? Why did the aliens whisper the word "claimed"? He replayed the moment of the bite over and over in his head, every detail sharper, every whisper heavier. His chest tightened with confusion, his throat dry with questions. The station seemed to press down on him like a weight, every corridor filled with eyes, every shadow hiding secrets. By morning, Ethan had made up his mind. He had to find out the truth. No more guessing, no more waiting, no more pretending it was just a playful act. Whatever that girl had done, whatever it meant in her world, he had to know. But deep inside, he feared that the answer would change everything about his life, and somewhere, hidden in the golden glow of her eyes, He already sensed that it had. Ethan walked through the station halls the next day with a restless heart. The alien girl's words echoed in his mind again and again. "You belong to me now." It was like a chain wrapping around his thoughts, no matter how much he tried to ignore it. Everywhere he went, whispers followed him, quiet voices in alien tongues, sharp glances from creatures he did not know. It was as if the whole station had decided that something about him had changed. Even though he could not see it himself, while passing through the market sector, Ethan stopped near a row of glowing crystals being sold by a merchant. He was pretending to study them when he overheard two tall alien elders speaking nearby. Their voices were deep, rumbling like stone grinding against stone. Though most of their language was unknown to him, Ethan caught a phrase that made his blood run cold. "The chosen one marked by blood," one said. Ethan froze, his fingers tightening around the edge of the stall. The words repeated in his head. "Chosen one, marked by blood." His shoulder tingled where the girl had bitten him, as if the mark were there, even if unseen. He turned his head slightly to hear more. But the elders walked away, their robes trailing behind them, their words fading like mist. A sense of dread filled his chest, a feeling that he was caught in something far larger than himself. Later, in the dim corridors near the docking bay, Ethan saw her again, Liara. The alien girl with golden eyes was waiting for him, leaning against the wall as if she had known exactly where he would appear. Her smile was softer this time, less playful, more serious. "You heard the whispers, didn't you?" she asked. Quietly, Ethan's mouth went dry. "What do they mean?" "The chosen one marked by blood. What did you do to me?" His voice shook, more from fear than anger. Liara stepped closer, her gaze never leaving his. "I didn't do anything," she whispered. "I revealed what was already hidden inside you." Ethan frowned, confusion twisting his thoughts. "Inside me? I don't understand." "You will," she said, her voice calm but carrying weight. "But you must trust me first." Ethan felt his heart pounding. Trust her? The girl who bit him in front of half the station? The girl who claimed he belonged to her? But her eyes held a strange light, not cruel, not mocking, but something deeper, almost protective. "I can't trust you if you don't tell me the truth," Ethan said finally, his voice firmer. Liara leaned even closer, her lips near his ear, and whispered, "To bite is to bind. It means your life is now tied to mine. Our fates are shared." Ethan stepped back quickly, shaking his head. "No. No, that's insane. I didn't agree to that. I didn't choose this." Liara tilted her head, her smile faint, but her eyes sharp. "Choice has nothing to do with it. The bond chooses, not us," she replied. Her words struck Ethan like a blade, leaving him breathless. The thought that his life was now tangled with hers felt unreal, frightening, yet strangely magnetic. As he struggled to process her words, a sudden alarm echoed through the halls. A deep, metallic sound rolled across the station. Followed by flashing red lights, aliens ran past them, shouting in languages Ethan didn't know, their faces tense with fear. Liara grabbed his arm, her grip strong. "You stay with me," she ordered. Ethan hesitated, but the chaos around him left no room to argue. They moved quickly through the crowded hall, her pulling him along narrow passages until they reached a quieter chamber. Here, the walls were covered with glowing symbols. Ancient and strange, Ethan's eyes darted around. "Where are we?" Liara looked at him with a strange intensity. "This is the Hall of Bonds, the place where our people recognize the chosen." Ethan swallowed hard, unease crawling through him. "And why am I here?" "Because the bond has already started," she said softly, "and the elders will want to see you." Ethan shook his head, backing away toward the door. "No, this is madness. I'm not part of your people. I didn't ask for this." Liara stepped closer, her golden eyes glowing faintly under the chamber's light. "You may not have asked, but you were chosen," she said firmly, "and running from it will only make it worse." Her voice held no anger, only certainty. Ethan's hands trembled, his chest tight with fear and confusion. He had never believed in fate, never believed in destiny. Yet here he was, being dragged into one he did not understand. Liara's final words echoed in his mind as the chamber doors opened slowly, revealing the shadows of alien elders waiting inside. "You belong to me now," she whispered again, her voice like both a promise and a warning. And in that moment, Ethan knew the truth was about to begin. Asterisk. The chamber doors closed behind Ethan with a heavy sound. He stood in the center of a wide, circular hall, the air thick with incense and glowing symbols carved into the walls. Alien elders surrounded him, tall figures in long robes, their eyes shining like burning embers in the dim light. They did not speak at first, they only stared, silent and powerful, as if measuring the weight of his very soul. Ethan's pulse raced. He wanted to turn back, to run. But Liara was beside him, calm and steady. She placed her hand lightly on his arm, whispering, "Do not fear, just listen." One of the elders finally stepped forward, his voice deep and echoing like a drum. "The bond has been awakened," he said, "and the human carries the mark." Ethan swallowed hard. "I don't understand any of this. I didn't agree to." "Whatever this is," the elder's golden eyes narrowed. "Agreement is not the way of the bond. It is older than choice, older than words, older even than our people." Liara glanced at Ethan, her face softer now. "I told you, the bond chooses." Another elder spoke, her voice sharp but filled with calm authority. "In our culture, the bite is more than a gesture. It is the seal of unity. It means two lives are tied together, not just in flesh, but in duty." Ethan blinked, his chest tightening. "Duty? What duty?" The elder raised a long hand, pointing at him. "To protect, to fight, to share life and death, to walk as one with the one who has chosen you." Ethan felt dizzy. The words crashed against his mind like waves. He looked at Liara, her golden eyes steady, her presence strangely grounding. "This is insane," Ethan whispered. "I'm just a human. I can't be part of your traditions." But Liara stepped closer, her voice calm but unyielding. "You already are," she said. "The moment I chose you, the bond became real, whether you accept it or not." Ethan shook his head. "Why me? There are thousands of beings here. Why choose a human? Why not one of your own?" Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile, but her eyes carried something deeper. "Because you are different. Your kind is unshaped by our ways. You see paths we cannot see. You act without fear of the chains we place on ourselves." Her words stirred something in Ethan, a flicker of pride mixed with unease. The elders began to chant softly, their voices rising and falling like a tide. Strange symbols on the walls glowed brighter, painting the chamber in golden light. Liara whispered to Ethan, "This is the recognition. The elders are acknowledging the bond. From now on, you are no longer just Ethan. You are bound to me and to my people." Ethan clenched his fists. "No, this can't be happening. I never asked for this." Lyra's hand touched his shoulder, gently. "Neither did I, yet here we are." The chanting stopped, and the lead elder raised his hand, silence filling the chamber. "Human Ethan," the elder said, "you must understand, the bond is not only personal, it is political. Your link to Liara ties you to her clan, her duties, her enemies, and her honor." Ethan's stomach dropped. "Enemies?" he repeated. The elder's eyes glimmered. "Yes, for every bond creates strength, and strength always attracts opposition." Ethan felt the floor tilt beneath him. His simple trade mission had twisted into something far more dangerous. Liara stepped forward, her voice clear. "He will not be alone. I will guide him. I will fight beside him." The elders nodded slowly, their faces unreadable, but their approval carried weight. Ethan turned to her, his voice low. "Why do I feel like I've been trapped in a game I don't understand?" Lyra's golden eyes softened. "Because you have, but not all traps are cages, some are doors." Her words sank into him like a stone in deep water. He wanted to protest again, to shout that he was just human, that he wanted no part in this alien culture. But deep inside, something stopped him, a strange pull, a whisper in his chest that maybe, just maybe, this bond was not an accident. The elders stepped back, the glow fading from the walls, and the chamber grew quieter. The lead elder spoke one final time. The bond will be tested soon, and only then will its true strength be revealed. Ethan left the hall in silence, Lyra walking beside him. He felt the weight of invisible chains wrapping tighter around him, yet her presence beside him carried a strange comfort. Every glance from the aliens they passed reminded him of what he had heard. Whispers of the chosen one, murmurs of claimed. He was no longer just Ethan the human. He was part of something ancient, something dangerous, something alive. And as he lay awake later in his quarters, staring at the shadows above him, he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The bite had changed everything, and his life would never return to what it was before. The station never slept, its halls always alive with footsteps, voices, and the hum of machinery. But that night, Ethan felt the silence before the storm, a tension in the air that made his skin crawl. He walked alongside Lyra, his mind heavy with the weight of the bond, the duties, the traditions, the whispers of enemies waiting in the shadows. Then the alarms began. A deep metallic roar shook the station, lights turned crimson, and warning sirens echoed through every corridor. Aliens shouted in panic, running past Ethan, some grabbing weapons, others dragging their children away. Ethan's heart raced. "What's happening?" he asked, his voice barely heard over the chaos. Lyra's golden eyes narrowed, sharp with focus. "Raiders," she said, her voice steady. "They have come to test us." Before Ethan could ask more, a violent explosion rattled the walls. Smoke pouring into the hallway, the ground trembled as heavy footsteps echoed closer. Figures emerged from the smoke, tall armored raiders with glowing red visors, weapons in their hands, their movements quick and brutal. The crowd screamed, scattering in fear, but the raiders moved like hunters, blocking every escape. Ethan froze, panic rising in his chest. He had never faced anything like this. One raider raised his weapon toward a group of unarmed aliens. Before Ethan could think, Lyra pulled a curved blade from her side and leapt forward, striking with fierce speed. The sound of metal clashing filled the air, sparks flying as she fought, her movements graceful yet deadly. Ethan stared in shock, unable to look away. But then another raider moved toward him, his weapon raised high. Ethan's instincts screamed at him to run, yet his feet stayed frozen. At the last second, he grabbed a piece of metal pipe from the wreckage beside him. Holding it like a bat, the raider swung. Ethan ducked clumsily and swung back with desperate strength. The pipe smashed into the raider's side, sending him stumbling back with a roar. Ethan gasped, adrenaline rushing through him. The aliens nearby turned their eyes to him with shock, whispers spreading quickly. Lyra finished her opponent and ran to Ethan's side, her golden eyes burning. "You see?" she said fiercely. "The bond is already working. You fight because of it." Ethan shook his head, panting. "No, I fought because I had no choice." Lyra gave a sharp smile. "Exactly." The raiders regrouped, more of them pouring into the hall. Explosions shook the walls again. The ceiling cracked, debris falling all around. Lyra grabbed Ethan's arm and pulled him into cover. "Listen to me," she said quickly. "This is your test. They will not stop until you stand, until you prove what the bond means." Ethan clenched his fists, fear crashing into anger. "I'm not a warrior. I didn't ask for this." Lyra's voice softened, even as battle raged around them. "Neither did I, but we are bound, and together we are stronger than either of us alone." Another wave of raiders stormed forward, their weapons glowing with deadly light. Ethan's mind raced. Running was useless, hiding was pointless. Something inside him shifted, a raw instinct rising from deep within. He grabbed a discarded alien weapon from the ground, its surface strange but glowing faintly. The device responded to his touch, Pulsing with energy, almost as if it recognized him, he lifted it, uncertain. But when the next raider charged, Ethan fired, a blast of light throwing the armored figure across the hall. For a moment, silence fell. The aliens who had been watching gasped in shock, their whispers filling the air. The bond. The chosen. The human fights. Ethan stared at the weapon in his hands, his heart thundering. He had never felt such power, such fear, and such clarity all at once. Liara stood beside him, her blade raised, her voice calm but proud. Now you begin to understand. The battle raged for what felt like hours. Ethan and Liara fighting side by side. Every move he made seemed guided. Every strike matched with hers, their rhythm unspoken but perfect. He was no warrior, yet in that moment he moved like one, as if the bond itself fueled his courage. By the time the last raider fell, the hall was covered in smoke and rubble, but the survivors stood in awe, their eyes fixed on Ethan. Breathing hard, Ethan dropped the weapon, his hands shaking. He looked at Liara, his voice low. I don't know what just happened, but it didn't feel like me. Liara stepped closer, her golden eyes glowing brighter than ever. It was you, and it was us. The bond makes us more than we are alone. Her words sent a shiver down Ethan's spine, half fear, half wonder. For the first time, he realized the bite had not just tied him to Liara. It had tied him to something greater, something dangerous, and something impossible to walk away from. As the alarms finally went silent and the smoke cleared, the elders arrived, their eyes fixed on Ethan. One of them spoke with deep gravity. The human has proven himself. The bond is real. Ethan's chest tightened. His life had shifted once again. He was no longer just a visitor, no longer just an outsider. He was part of the bond, and the galaxy would never see him the same way again. The battle was over, but the echoes of it lingered in Ethan's chest. The station smelled of smoke and burnt metal, the air heavy with fear and relief. Aliens whispered as he walked past, some bowing their heads, others staring at him with awe. Ethan felt none of the pride they seemed to give him, only a growing weight pressing against his heart. He followed Liara into a quiet chamber, away from the wounded and the chaos. His hands still shook from the fight, his mind replaying every blast, every scream, every desperate strike. Finally, he turned to her, his voice unsteady. I need answers, all of them. No more riddles, no more whispers. Tell me what this bond really is. Liara looked at him for a long moment, her golden eyes softer than he had ever seen. Then she nodded slowly, as if she had been waiting for this moment. The bond is not only tradition, she began, her voice calm, almost gentle. It is survival. Ethan frowned. Survival? Of what? Liara walked closer, her steps light, her face lit by the glow of the chamber's walls. Our people are old, older than many stars, but our strength has always come from the bond. One who bites and one who is bitten, two who become one in battle, in life and destiny. She raised her hand, touching his shoulder gently. Without the bond we are weak, with it, we are unbreakable. Ethan shook his head, his voice rising. That's not an answer. Why me? Why not one of your own? Why drag a human into this? Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile, though her eyes were serious. Because you are not like us. You think differently, you fight differently, your people are new to the stars. Yet you see them with fresh eyes, where we see walls, you see doors. Her words made Ethan's chest tighten, half with pride, half with fear. Liara stepped back, her tone shifting, her voice heavier now. But there is more, something you must know. Ethan braced himself, his throat dry. Tell me. Liara's golden eyes locked onto his, unblinking. The bite was not only a bond. It was a test, a trial of worthiness. If you had failed, you would have died in the attack. But you lived, and you fought. That means the bond is true, and it means you have passed. Ethan felt his knees weaken. He sank onto a nearby bench, his mind spinning. So this whole time, you were testing me? That's what all of this was about. Liara's voice softened, almost sad. Not only testing you, testing us. The bond does not belong to one. It belongs to both. You proved yourself, and I proved myself by choosing you. Her words hit Ethan harder than the battle had. He had thought the bite was random, playful, maybe even foolish. But now he realized it had been the beginning of something far deeper. He lifted his head, staring at her. So what happens now? What does this bond mean for me? For us? Liara stepped closer, her golden eyes glowing faintly. It means our lives are tied. Your victories will be mine. Your pain will be mine. Your enemies will be mine, and mine will be yours, together. We are one, and the galaxy must see us as one. Ethan's chest tightened, fear and anger rising inside him. I never asked for this. I never wanted this, he whispered, his voice breaking. Liara knelt in front of him, her hand resting gently over his. Nor did I, she admitted, her voice trembling for the first time. But the bond is not about want. It is about need, and whether you believe it or not, the galaxy needs you now. For a moment, silence filled the chamber, the weight of her words hanging heavy between them. Ethan wanted to deny it, to scream that he was just human, just ordinary. But deep inside, he felt the truth. The bond was alive. He could feel it pulsing between them, a thread of energy that tied his breath to hers, his heartbeat to hers, his courage to hers. It was terrifying, and yet, strangely, it was also comforting. Liara leaned closer, her voice low, her words for him alone. I chose you not only because of tradition, but because I believed, deep inside, that humans carry something our people lost long ago, something we need, something the stars themselves still remember. Ethan's eyes narrowed. And what's that? Liara smiled softly, her golden eyes shining. Heart. The word lingered in the air. Simple but heavy. Ethan sat there, unable to reply, his chest burning with emotions he could not name. The bond had changed everything, but Lyra's words struck him in a way he could not escape. Maybe she was right. Maybe humans carried something more than strength, something the galaxy had forgotten. And maybe, just maybe, that was why he had been chosen. As they sat in silence, the distant sound of alarms returned. The danger was not gone. Enemies still lurked in the shadows of the galaxy. Ethan knew now that his fight was only beginning, but for the first time, he did not feel entirely alone. The bond was strange, frightening, and unwanted, yet it was also powerful, and in Lyra's eyes, he saw the truth, the true meaning of the bite was not just a choice, it was a promise. Asterisk, the station was quiet after the battle, but it was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of waiting, the silence of eyes watching, of whispers hiding in the dark. Ethan walked through the long corridors with Liara at his side, the bond between them pulsing like a living thread. Every alien they passed lowered their head, some in respect, others in fear. He was no longer an outsider, no longer invisible. But the weight of their stares pressed heavy on his shoulders. They entered the grand hall where the elders waited once again. The air shimmered with light from glowing crystals, the walls echoing with voices that spoke of destiny and duty. The lead elder stepped forward, his voice deep and commanding. The human has passed the trial. The bond is alive. He now stands as protector not only of Liara, but of her clan. The words sent a shiver through Ethan. He had not chosen this, yet the choice had already been made. Liara stood tall beside him, her golden eyes burning with quiet strength. She placed her hand lightly on his arm, steadying him, but Ethan's thoughts were racing. Protector, warrior, bonded partner. These were not roles he had ever dreamed for himself. He had been a traitor, a negotiator, a man trying to live quietly in the vast galaxy. Now he was tied to something far larger, something dangerous, something unescapable. The elder's gaze turned sharp. But the bond is more than unity. It is a signal, and it has already been seen. Ethan's heart skipped. Seen? By who? The elder's voice darkened. By your enemies. By those who fear what you may become. The words echoed like thunder in his mind. Enemies, unseen, already moving against him. Liara turned to him, her face calm but serious. This is why I told you the bond is survival. Those who hate me will now hate you. Those who hunt me will now hunt you. Ethan felt his stomach tighten. The reality of it pressing into his bones, he whispered, almost to himself. I never asked for this. Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. Fate rarely waits for permission. The hall dimmed suddenly as the crystals flickered. A holographic projection flared to life, showing a distant fleet of ships approaching through the stars, their weapons glowing with power. The elders' voices rose in alarm. They come already, faster than we feared. Ethan stared at the image. The fleet looked like a storm of fire crawling through the void. Who are they? He asked, his voice low. Lyra's golden eyes narrowed, her voice heavy with truth. They are the ones who want the bond destroyed, and they will not stop until we fall. The room erupted with voices, aliens shouting, elders arguing, fear spreading like fire. But Ethan stood still, frozen between fear and resolve. He had never wanted to fight, never wanted to be chosen, yet the bond had forced him into this moment, and deep inside, something stirred, the same instinct that had made him grab a weapon in battle, the same instinct that had made him protect. Strangers as if they were family, Liara leaned close to him, her voice soft, almost playful despite the danger. Do you remember what I told you when I bit you? She whispered. Ethan nodded slowly, his throat dry. You said it meant I belonged to you. Her lips curved into a sharper smile, her golden eyes glowing brighter. That was only the beginning, she said, her voice a mix of promise and warning. The first bite was a claim, but the real one is yet to come. Ethan felt his chest tighten, the meaning of her words heavy but unclear. The first bite had changed everything, had dragged him into a bond he did not choose. What would the second one bring? His voice trembled. What happens with the real one? Liara's smile widened, her gaze burning into him. When it comes, you will no longer be only human, you will be more. Before Ethan could reply, the alarm screamed again, the sound of war filling the hall. The fleet was closer, the station shaking with the tremor of distant fire. The elders shouted orders, warriors rushed to prepare. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. Ethan looked at Liara, his fear clashing with a strange fire rising in his chest. He didn't know what he was becoming, didn't know what the bond would make of him, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty. He was no longer just Ethan the human. He was something else, something new, something the galaxy was not ready for. And as the hall shook under the first strike of the enemy fleet, Liara leaned close, her lips brushing his ear, her whisper sharp as a blade. This was only the beginning.